Well, Jos Verstappen has gone on to slam Horner's antics yet again, as it seems like the father of the three-time world champion has had enough of the leadership of Red Bull. It goes without saying that Red Bull's downfall is one of the most interesting and rather hard to understand stories in 2024. From a team that went on to win the first 5 races with margins up to 30 seconds, to a team that hasn't won a race in the last 8 events, Red Bull have now found themselves in a battle to keep the second place in the Constructors' Championship alive. Now, the gains that McLaren have found were enough to put Norris in a competition for the Drivers' Championship, as the Brit now has a 52-point gap to close in the last 6 races and 3 sprint events in 2024. But according to Jos Verstappen, none of this would have happened if Horner had left the team at the beginning of the season. When talking about the team's current chemistry, Jos has been vocal for quite a long time, as he warned that good people will leave the team if nothing changes after the case of Horner has been dismissed. Furthermore, the Dutchman said, "It can't go on the way it is. It will explode. There is tension here while he remains in position." Ever since he said this, 3 key members of Red Bull have left: Adrian Newey, Jonathan Wheatley and Will Courtenay. To make things more painful, all 3 of these high-profile engineers were with the team from its humble beginnings just alongside Horner, and to see them depart and join their fiercest rivals, Aston Martin, McLaren and Audi, is not a sight that spells good news for your team. So, whether you like or hate Jos Verstappen for his statement and his constant involvement in Red Bull's politics just because his son is a driver on that team, he does hold a valid point when it comes to the departure of high-profile people from the team. During the East Belgian rally last weekend, Jos was questioned about the departure of Wheatley to Audi, with Jonathan set to be the new team principal of the German squad. As Jos said, "Yes, this is what I warned about." The team then says, "Oh, it doesn't matter, we have someone else who we can put in that position, but it's too many people now leaving, and Max gets questions about it every time," and so on. So yeah, I think it's just not good what's happening at the moment. Horner always glosses over the problems. Well, it was also mentioned by Horner that the departures from Wheatley and Newey are something that were to be expected, because when you reach a pinnacle in your career with a certain team, you're looking for another challenge. Jokingly or not, Christian has also hinted that with the departure of Jonathan, the team now has a lot of financial assets available to put somewhere else, as Wheatley was one of the highest paid members of the team. But what many are forgetting is that it was this man's pressure that brought up that one-lap racing back in 2021 between Verstappen and Hamilton, and had it not been for it, Verstappen wouldn't have gotten his maiden championship the way he did. Be that as it may, Red Bull now has a huge gap to fill because, along with these high-profile engineers, there are tons of other experienced staff that are following suit along, so it's easy to understand that the Austrian team is not in the best position right now. While Horner didn't want to admit it up until a couple of weeks ago, it's now evident that Red Bull has turned from a hunted to a hunter team, as the Brit said that he was ready for certain situations in the team would emerge sooner rather than later, with him further elaborating, "Adrian has been on the brink of retiring for 10 years, so we had to be prepared for that, and I believe we've got strength and depth. Adrian has chosen to continue elsewhere, and of course Jonathan is likewise a long-term member, but they're 2 more higher profile names. The reality is that's just 2 people out of the 2,000 people that we have within the group." Well, it does look like Horner is not really paying enough attention to the problem, because, whether by coincidence or not, the downfall of Red Bull started precisely when Newey announced his departure. Of course, he was included in the development of the RB20's initial design, but it was through minimal input. And before he announced that he would leave the team, the Brit mastermind voiced his concern about certain elements of the car, such as the cooling and the overall aerodynamics, warning the other engineers that the path Red Bull has chosen is not the right one. And to top that off, the scandal with Horner has only taken a greater extent as there was a power shift within the team. So, while many were expecting that this would be the end of the Brit's career in Formula 1, it turned out exactly the opposite. Horner has gained more power and trust from the Austrian side of Red Bull as well. This is why Marco agreed that the most important thing for Red Bull now is to keep on winning. But that didn't prevent Jos from speaking out his mind loud and clear, something to which Horner has given a perfect response in terms of staff leaving the team. The team principal of Red Bull stated that his team has managed to recruit over 250 people in the last year, 200 of whom came from Mercedes, in order to work on the new powertrain that is set to debut from 2026 onwards. Furthermore, Horner stated, "We recruited, I think, close to 250 people during the last 12 months across the project, into powertrains, into the brand new engine shop that we're building. We don't talk about the over 200 people we brought from Mercedes. There's a lot of focus on the 2 people who are leaving because they're slightly more public facing." And whether or not this will be enough for Red Bull to overcome the deficit to McLaren and prevail in the Drivers' Championship, time will tell. A general conclusion from both Horner and Marco is that the constructors are not something which they could compete due to the poor performance of Perez, which will be a big hit in the upcoming season when everything restarts from zero, as we've seen that Mercedes and Ferrari are not here to play games either. What Horner and Red Bull are hoping is that the upgrades they've planned for Austin are going to put the car in a bit wider operating window, which has been the primary issue to fight ever since the new philosophy of the car was introduced. And Christian believes that the team was able to learn a lot about the car from the Singapore GP. During this race, Verstappen has extracted a miracle podium finish at P2, which was quite unexpected given the fact that in times when the car was extremely dominant throughout the season in 2022 and 2023, the Dutchman wasn't able to be on the podium, and as a matter of fact, he got knocked out in Q2 along with his teammate last year. But this time it was different, and when talking about the learnings that the team gathered from this race, Horner put a lot of respect on the reserve driver Buemi, as he said, "Buemi was consuming plenty of Red Bulls to keep him going. He played an important part, as did the whole team, in working hard and long days and nights, and with the benefit of there being no factory shutdown over the next 3-week period, it's going to be a busy period of activity." Again, Jos Verstappen found it extremely hard to believe Horner's statement, as he politely asked him through the platform X to cut the stupid stuff with the word stuff, obviously replaced with an explicit version that we cannot present to you right here. Nevertheless, the pressure is now on Horner, and while Marco agreed that there needs to be a bit more private conversations within the team, and Jos needs to state his problems inside the team and not create drama on which the rivals can prey, the veteran Austrian agreed that the team principal of Red Bull needs to do something in order to keep the situation stable. Another issue that Red Bull might soon have on their hands is the future of Max Verstappen, as the 3-time world champion has been related to a move to Aston Martin, a team that now has a state-of-the-art factory back in Silverstone, with a brand new wind tunnel and the reunion of Newey and Honda set to take place from 2026 onwards. This is something that both Jos and Marco have warned us about, and we shouldn't be surprised if, in 2026, the 3-time world champion decides that enough is enough and that Red Bull is not the place that he can call home anymore. So if this happens, it would be interesting to see whether Horner will be the main one to be blamed for losing such a talented driver from his team. With all this in mind, do you think that Jos's comments on Horner are legitimate ones? And do you think that the Dutchman was right to criticize the behavior of the team principal of Red Bull? Because, at the end of the day, it was proven that he's right when it comes to good people leaving the team. Let us know in the comments down below.